I'm Danielle Boris, and I'm so excited you chose to join me for this episode of Unboxing Humans, the podcast where we unlock the human-to-human business model by uncovering what makes each of us a little weird. Unboxing Humans is brought to you by Sandbox. Sandbox's talent intelligence technology uses intrinsic motivation and purpose to identify who is disengaged from work and how to uniquely re-inspire each team member. Learn more at sandboxtogether.com. My guest this week is Melanie Varin. Melanie is the owner and chief operating officer of TopLine Results Corporation, an IT consulting company that helps clients bring together the right tools to build valuable relationships. Melanie co-owns TopLine Results with her life partner, Fred Varin, who founded the company in 1999. Prior to becoming actively involved at TopLine, she spent many years leading marketing teams for large Fortune 100 companies. When she became a national sales leader, her perspective on marketing changed significantly. She made marketing and sales modifications that drove better alignment and was amazed by the results. Melanie developed a passion for go-to-market alignment and loves to share the value and benefits of alignment with other business leaders and her clients. Melanie spent 7 years of her 35-plus year career doing business in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East for 3 different organizations, including leading one turnaround there. She is the proud mom of 3 successful adult children, Patrick, Clark, and Stephanie, and has a bonus daughter-in-law, Rose Varin Palermo. When she's not working or writing, you might find her traveling or enjoying fine food, both cooking and eating. Melanie, welcome to Unboxing Humans.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Oh, I want to start with your company because you founded TopLine Results, which is a customer relationship management system. And I want to hear all about what you guys do. But I also think it's so interesting that you started the company in 1999. And what was that journey like? Can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to start this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Danielle, I have to give my husband credit because he was really the impetus for starting the company. I had the big corporate job. We were moving around the country, actually even around the world. We lived in London for a little while, and he was trying to find his groove, if you will. He had been a manufacturer's rep. He had used a little kind of like a Palm Pilot type thing back in the day to manage his clients and whatnot. And he's like, hey, I really love this program called ACT. I think I could teach other people how to use it. So he started doing that while I was doing the big corporate thing. That was in Texas, and that was in 1999. And at the time, he called the company ACT Proactive. And then I got this corporate offer to move to GE in Wisconsin. We moved to GE. Originally, we weren't going to move. He's like, hey, I followed you around all these places. Seriously, do you want to move again? And just got this company started. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Let's stay here. Let's stay put. Well, they came back 6 months later with a better offer. And he did the math when he figured out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where we live, there were a couple dozen ACT certified consultants at the time. And in Wisconsin, there was one in Green Bay, which is a couple of hours away from Milwaukee where we were going to live. So he's like, maybe this is a good move for me too. So we moved up to Wisconsin, and he became like the #1 ACT representative in the country for like 8 or 9 years running. We got all these cool incentive trips and everything. And he then grew the business to include Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce, Zoho, HubSpot. About 6 years ago now, I joined the company, bringing all of my expertise from having worked in corporate America, led national sales teams, led global marketing teams. Many of our clients are in those positions. And also having done a lot with process, with Lean and Six Sigma, to help our clients think through their process before they implement the technology. So he's really the founder, but we've been co-owners from the beginning. And I plugged in about 6 years ago and have definitely got my fingerprints all over the company now.
That's such an interesting story. And I feel like so many younger listeners don't think about the Palm Pilot days and the apps that were on Palm Pilots, and tech has been around for a long time now, just not in the way necessarily that we think about it. What made you decide to leave your big corporate jobs and join your husband?
Well, I was leading a national sales team, and my team was combined with another team, and they didn't need two leaders. So I had the opportunity to look for a new job. But I had then the good fortune of plugging into a startup, and I had never done a startup before. And I actually worked with a startup out of Nashville. And it was in the same field as the corporate job I had. So I could bring a lot of my expertise there. That was super fun. The technology was very cool. It looked simple. It turned out to be a lot more complex. And so it didn't end up panning out. But the idea was there was this little pocket size EKG machine that could be controlled by an Apple iPad. And thing was great, except they had to keep like 5 different OSs in sync at the same time between firmware and software and the Apple iOS and the web browser and whatnot. And keeping all those in sync became a challenge. So didn't have the opportunity to stay with that very long, but I was on a board for a nonprofit for a while, and they asked me to join the executive team. I did that for a while, but I didn't really find a great culture fit. And that's when I said, hey, Fred, what if we work together on this? We weren't sure we wanted to do that. Being married for 30 plus years, we're like, working together might be a whole nother ball game. Maybe we wouldn't like that so much. So let's give it 6 months and see how it goes. And here we are 6 years later. So it's worked out very well. But one of the keys was I would not be in the main office all day, every day. I would work from our home office, which is only 5 minutes away. So I'm in my home office right now, and it allows me to have a little bit of distance, but still be very involved. And it's been a great ride. I've loved it. And yeah, it's been wonderful.
And do you manage a team that's in the office while you're remote, or is your team all remote as well?
Some of my team is remote, so I lead a sales team, and one of our sales team members is down in Chicago, so she's remote. Our chief marketing officer, who I work very closely with, is remote all but one day a week. And so we were actually very well positioned before COVID because we had a lot of remote work. But I work very closely with the project manager also, who's based out of the office. So we have a lot of Teams meetings, but I also go into the office on occasion too. So I'm close enough that I could really drop what I'm doing and be there in like 5 minutes. So it's really kind of the best of both worlds.
You guys seem to have been pioneering everything from the beginning. In the 90s, CRMs, pre-COVID remote work and hybrid work.
Yeah, it's actually been really, really interesting because rewind a little bit. I have an engineering degree, and it's so old that my first programming class was on punch cards. So I mean, we're talking way back pre-Palm Pilot. But so this has been very, very fun. But staying in kind of the foray of technology has been great because it's been positioned us well for a lot of the ups and downs of business and gave us a lot of flexibility. And now, when it's so hard to find good people, having that flexibility is really key to getting good people on board. And we're not restricted to just the immediate, geographic area.
And by flexibility, you mean remote?
I mean remote, I mean some hybrid stuff. I mean, we even had some people who were part-time who didn't work full-time. So we've considered a lot of different business models. And even when I was in the corporate world, I had at one point in my career when was a mom of young children, I did some part-time work, and I even did some job share work. So that flexible work, opportunity has been kind of a big part of who we've been all along. So that's been very cool.
Yeah, that's something I hear often from women who were always in the workforce, even while raising a family, is that diverse perspective that they brought to their companies. And now they're able to lead, whether it's the same company or a different company, saying, I know the value of flexible work, of job sharing work, of part-time work.
Right.
I'm wondering, when you were in that position for larger corporations, was that already something they were doing, or were you a big advocate of it and helped champion it?
Yeah, it wasn't that common back then. In fact, I found a few people who were doing it, but when I finally announced I was doing it, I felt like I was like coming out of the closet or something because it was so novel. But what I did to make it work for me is I always maintained childcare options for 5 days a week, even if I didn't need it, just so I could flex. And then I always volunteered to schedule the meetings. So I could schedule them when it worked for me. And everybody's like, oh, fine, you schedule the meetings. Well, I could always schedule them so it worked for me. And half the time, they didn't even know I was part-time. I've had people tell me, you were part-time? I had no idea. And that's just because I never made a big deal out of it. And I always kind of made it work for me. But in doing so, it also worked for them.
I think that's such a great lesson when we think about flexible work, part-time work, remote work. It's often such a big conversation, or how do I know my team is actually working if they're remote? And here you are saying, I was doing it and no one even knew because I was trusted to get my work done, right? Like
Right,
it was never an issue and you were showing up and you were doing the job. So no one had to know. They just knew
right,
like Melanie gets her work done. Melanie's fantastic. Melanie's such a great
exactly.
leader.
And I think the key to it was I was doing a lot of project work. If you're doing an operational job where you've got to be like creating invoices every day or, picking up the phone and answering customer service calls every day, it's a little bit harder. But if you have a project-based role, like I did at the time, then it becomes easier. And I actually took that role knowing it would be easier to have that flexibility. And then I moved back into an operational role when I was ready to go back to full time. And that's when I took on the global marketing role and then eventually was tapped to take on the national sales team as well.
I feel like that's the perfect segue into my next question, all about aligning work and teams. It sounds like you've been doing, I mean, I know that's what the business is all about, that's what your book is all about, but it sounds like
Right.
you've been maybe subconsciously focused on that for a long time.
Yeah, well, I had been doing marketing at several levels in GE prior to that part-time stint and after. And even while I was part-time in a job share position, my job share partner and I were doing global marketing operations. So marketing was a big part of my career. I had never led a sales team. And I never really ever carried a bag as a salesperson. But again, my boss was faced with having to eliminate a role, and he decided to eliminate the role of the person who was currently in the sales position. He had only been in that role less than a year. He wasn't really a good fit. He had been brought in from outside. So culturally, it was a little bit of a disconnect. And the guy who had been in that role prior to him was let go for compliance reasons.
Oh gosh.
So I didn't exactly have two stellar role models to follow. But my boss said, I think you can do it. I will give you a soft place to land if it doesn't work out, but I think you can do this. So he gave me a lot of support to take on the sales role at the national level. And when I started getting in the sales role, I realized, wow, some of the stuff my marketing team is doing is not really helping sales all that much. It sounds like good stuff, but it's not really helping close deals. And I got a lot smarter about what that would take. And then I also did a lot to kind of meld the two teams more. So we started doing ride-alongs where the marketing team would ride along with the salesperson. I started a sales advisory board where we would get together several times a year and you had to be nominated as a salesperson who was a leader and an influencer among your peers to come and participate. And we got to share what's working, what's not working. This was a combined sales and marketing thing. And over time, the teams just got so much more knowledgeable about what each other does, what the pain points are, how we could help each other out. And then because of that, we started seeing great results. We were able to have super high margins. In fact, I think the highest margins in GE Healthcare at the time. We were able to land our biggest deal ever in the history of that group, a multi-million-dollar deal, much larger than anything we had ever done. We had great retention among the team. I mean, you name it, all the metrics that you would want for a team were benefited from this great alignment between sales and marketing. And once I saw that, I'm like, wow, more people need to be doing this, and that's what gave me the drive to write the book, is help other people realize the true value of getting those aligned. And then when I started digging into the research, I learned that sales marketing misalignment is a $1 trillion problem. And I'm like, it is big and it's everywhere. So yes, it's a problem that a lot of people need help with. And I'm happy to, plug in and let people know what I've learned and share a little bit of my journey.
It's so fascinating because you're right. We often see the problems ourselves because of your experience in two different roles. And I speak with so many leaders and employees, honestly, who feel like they have to go up one ladder. But in reality, I don't know of a single person's career that's only gone up one ladder. That's the only ladder the whole time. And there's so much to be gained from diverse perspective, and diverse perspective, not only demographically, of course, but within the organization. And so how do you create an environment where people are able to lean into maybe different interests they have at work or different ways that they want to develop their perspectives?
Well, honestly, Danielle, I think you are the expert in that. I should turn that back around to you because of what you're passionate about. But I think honestly, when it comes to, having those discussions you have on a regular basis, and certainly more than annually, minimally annually, but certainly more than that, because if you're a good manager, you're going to be talking with your team probably weekly or biweekly at a minimum, around what their goals are, how they're working with her, what do they enjoy, what do they not enjoy. We just hired a new person and she's kind of got a hybrid role, a little bit of sales, a little bit of marketing. She's brand new. She got thrown into a networking event. And afterwards, she said, hey, I'm not super comfortable with networking. I'm much happier making calls. And it's like, wow, we need people making calls. Let's have you do that. We can find somebody else to go through the networking. So I think having that open dialogue is fundamental to that. And then having people being willing to advocate for themselves and stand up and say, this is what I enjoy, or this is what I think I'm better at. And, there's two philosophies here. One is really lean into your strengths and develop that, because that's where you're going to be happiest. And one is, hey, I have a problem here. I should work on that. That's true. You probably should, but it never ends up becoming your strength. So I think if you can figure out your strength and lean into that and let your leaders know, your managers know, your peers know, you can support each other in that. And then because we're all different, different people's strengths will benefit the others because they'll be complementary. And then you kind of all rise together, right?
Yes. I mean, I'm in awe of that story where you've created so much trust in your organization and so much psychological safety that someone feels comfortable saying, hey, this task that you gave me is really not my thing. And being able to shift the work. I mean, that alone is so incredible. How do you make sure that you're always creating that trust in the company? Is there sort of some key secrets you've seen? And maybe in terms of alignment, how does alignment fit into that?
Well, we're a small company, so we all wear a lot of different hats, and it's very rare that one person only does one thing. And so because I would say maybe the tech team is the exception. The people who are actually developing the databases, the configuration, the scripting, and all that tend to focus in that area. But those of us in sales sometimes do a little bit of marketing, and marketing does a little bit of sales. We do have specialists there who do it more full time than others, but because of that, having to wear multiple hats, I'm okay to say, okay, of these two hats that you're wearing, if you feel more comfortable with that one, let's find more work for you to do there. And if we need you in this area, we'll pull you in when we need you, but otherwise we'll let you kind of lean into that space. And that's part of what's great about being a smaller company is you have some of that flexibility. Now sometimes you don't, because we need somebody to send out invoices, and whether you like to send out invoices or not, if that's your job, that's really what you need to do. And maybe if you don't like it, maybe we need to find somebody else. But so there's certain areas where you can't be flexible, but in certain areas you can. And so we try to maximize that where we're able to and still get our jobs done, right?
Yeah, it's something that's so key to smaller companies, and that larger companies, I think, want to do it, but often get stuck in how that happens. I'm wondering, with this alignment of sales, rev ops, and marketing, how do you know if you have misalignment to begin with?
Well, some of the telltale signs are when sales complains that they don't get good leads, or marketing complains that sales doesn't follow up on the leads that they're given, and things like that. When you start hearing those kinds of rumblings where it's like we, they, then that's a good sign. Some of it may be that they don't understand exactly what each other's trying to do. We recently, because we help our clients with this all the time, but every now and then we have to stop and make sure we're doing what we say others need to do. So we recently step back and redefine our sales process to make sure we're really clear on what's the difference between a lead and a marketing qualified lead, or a marketing qualified lead and a sales qualified lead, or that and an opportunity, and what are those triggers going to be, and what are those handoffs going to be. And if everybody's really clear on those handoffs and who does what when, not only is it going to be more seamless and transparent for the prospects and the customers, but it's going to be just much more clear for the team on who does what. And then you can actually hold each other accountable. Like, I did my part, now it's time for you to do your part. And we all agree this is your part, right? And so, it just becomes easier when you have that clarity. And so that's part of what my book does too, is help bring some of that clarity around process, right? And it's not just process, it's also, definition of customer, it's also common platforms, it's also common goals. And I think if you can get those things lined up, then you're well on your way to having great alignment for all your go-to-market teams. And ultimately, that's what revenue operations is all about, is great alignment of your go-to-market teams so that you're really leveraging your full potential for growth.
It's so interesting in terms of there's so many things. Finger pointing, I mean, is the one that comes to mind. I've certainly worked in organizations in the past where it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault, and trying to hold themselves accountable. And what you're right, what really needs to happen is everyone taking a step back and remembering we're all on the same team.
Right.
And I think especially as companies grow, they tend to lose that. It's that department's fault because I don't know, something about our workforce, maybe in the US at least, is very, very finger pointy, very, I have to always be protecting myself, maybe a level of fear, which definitely hurts companies.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you feel like you have to tear somebody down to build yourself up, then that's a problem, right? Hopefully you're all rising together.
And is that one of the secrets you think to keeping your business going for so long? I know you only joined 6 years ago, but you've been with some great companies as well.
Yeah, I would say employee recognition, team recognition, basic gratitude for what each other is doing to help each other out is super good. I was very intentional about that when I led that national team at GE and trying to make sure that my team members who were doing a great job always got recognized. I was able to, after that big award or that big deal that we won, I was able to get about 7 people from my team nominated for a President's Award, which is one of the higher recognitions you can get. And I just took the time to do that. I mean, even now, there's a local award, and I have a friend who I think is very deserving of it. So I'm taking the time to nominate her, even though I've got one or two things going on in my life right now. But I think that is important. And we have on our staff meetings every Monday morning a time called We Notice. And it's basically a time for shout outs. And we actually put it in the meeting notes. So you can say, hey, I'm really thankful for Cyrus for bringing this to my attention, or I'm really thankful for Leanne for taking care of this for me. And today was the longest list of shout outs we have ever had. It filled out an entire page, and we've only got like 14 people. So, I mean, several people had multiples that they were shouting out to the team. And I think when you do that regularly and you just show appreciation, it goes a long way towards staying aligned,
What was it about today that there were so many? Did something happen recently?
I don't know, but everybody was, had several shout outs that they wanted to. And I think we're in a kind of a cool rhythm right now where we've hired a couple new people. Even the new people jumped on board and had their own shout outs. Several people did shout outs for the newer people because they were proactive in reaching out and scheduling some one-on-one meetings and getting to know folks. And I don't know if it has to do with just kind of we're in a really good space right now. I think the other thing that we've instituted that has turned things around for us a little bit and made it a little bit more fun is we said, this can't be all work. Let's have a little bit more fun with what we do. So we said, who wants to be on an engagement team for the company? And here's a budget. Every quarter you can spend X amount of money to go plan something fun. And so we actually had some fun things recently where actually one of our guys who's very into remote gaming helped us all over lunch hour one day play Jackbox games.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever played that, but that was super fun. And several of the shout outs were, hey, Michael, thanks for scheduling Jackbox games. That was so cool. So I don't know what it is about right now, but it may be a combination of the new engagement committee and the fun things they're doing, some new people joining the team, and just generally being in a good space as a company. So
yeah, it sounds like you had all the pieces in place already to motivate people. You're very focused on making sure everyone is doing the work that they love and leaning into their strengths and celebrating each other and aligning people so that, every goal is aligned across teams and everyone's really marching to the same beat. And then putting it over the top, you added the engagement committee. And I think it's just so brilliant because today we see so many companies starting with the engagement committee and forgetting to do all of the rest of the stuff, which is arguably the fundamentals, the most important, as you've demonstrated.
Yeah, we did probably several years ago now start doing a much better job of laying out for the entire company what our business plan is, and then having everyone's individual development plan for the year aligned to that. And so people have their new 2023 individual development plans laid out. They know exactly what they're doing, how it fits in with what our goals are, and that kind of thing. And I think that absolutely helps drive alignment for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like the combination between those development plans, but then also this team member that you gave the example of earlier saying, I can do my development plan and I can do it in this other way that, great, do it in this other way. You're still meeting your goals, you're still working, developing, and you're helping us in a way that we actually needed more help, as you said, right? Oh, we need someone to make those calls.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that psychological safety in speaking up, but I just can't get over being able to align people to the right work. I mean, that's what I'm all about.
Exactly. Well, I feel like you should give a pitch right now for your book.
Oh, my book. Yeah. Well, my book is all about the science behind people first leadership. Yeah. And aligning the right person to the right work with this premise that we're all weird and unique in our own ways. And when we're able to uncover what makes each person unique in our company and help them lean into that, we're able to thrive more as individuals, teams, and organizations. So this team member is like the living, breathing embodiment of what I was saying in my book, which is, yes, good point. Why I'm so excited for those who don't know what my book is. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're writing about and what we're trying to do has a lot of symbiosis, if you will. It's very complementary, even though I'm focusing on go-to-market teams specifically. I think, I think there's a lot of complementary concepts. So
yeah. You can speak more about it because I know you and I have had that conversation in the past, but feel free to expand.
Well, like you said, if people are doing the jobs that they love, they're going to just do a better job at it. And while you have certain jobs that you need to fill and you need certain skills and techniques that they need to bring to that in order to do it well, if you give them the flexibility to work on the stuff that they love in addition, or make sure that the stuff they are working on is the stuff they love, it's just going to be better for everybody all the way around. In terms of sales and marketing alignment, obviously you have to have salespeople who are good at what they do and lean into that. You have to have marketing people who are good at what they do and lean into that. You need to, sometimes we will often hire people who are earlier in their career and train them to do things the way we would like. So we end up offering a lot of coaching and guiding and leadership and training along the way. And that helps too. But then you need people who enjoy coaching to do the coaching and people enjoy the mentoring to do the mentoring. So it kind of plays into a whole bunch of different things there, right? But we have some people who are really, really good at that, enjoy it, and do a fabulous job. And they've been able to train people up to do the work that they've been doing on the technical side and on the marketing side. So it's worked out very well.
So great to see that working out in real life in an organization, and to, of course, learn more about how to do that in your new book, which is out now on Kindle.
That is correct. As of today, January 30th is when we're recording this. I became available on Amazon Kindle, and it should be available where all ebooks are sold here in the next couple of days. And then the paperback will be out at the end of February, beginning of March. It's called Ignite TopLine Growth. And the subtitle is How RevOps and Go-to-Market Alignment Spark Success. And it really is, the goal is to help other companies drive more growth through that alignment, and it will ignite the top line for them. So that's the goal.
It's interesting to me, actually. I'm just realizing this. Why do you say top line rather than bottom line?
Well, obviously, bottom line growth is important. Yeah. It's more important at the end of the day, because if you spend more than you make, then your business won't last very long. It's not sustainable. But I chose top line because sales is typically more focused on top line. Marketing tends to be probably a little bit more focused on top line as well, although they have to be cognizant of how much they're spending. But it also dovetails into the title of our company, which is Top Line Results. So there's a little bit of a play there. So we wanted to keep that consistent.
I'm just putting together what a unique perspective that is, because everyone always says, how does it impact the bottom line? How does it impact the bottom line? But you're not going to get to the bottom line unless you start at the top line.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, there are so many levers you can pull to help drive top line. Obviously, price is one and volume is one. And the more you sell at the higher price, the better your top line. At the end of the day, though, you still have to control cost and be cognizant of that, because bottom line is what, you need a positive bottom line, or you're not going to be able to cover all your bills, and you just won't be able to be sustainable. So both are very, very important.
Well, Melanie, thank you so much for joining me today. I loved our conversations, as I always do love talking to you. It's so insightful. You can learn more about Melanie, her business, and her book in the show notes. We'll link to everything there. Thank you so much.
Danielle, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for asking, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Unboxing Humans. Don't forget to subscribe and please rate us 5 stars. This rating allows other amazing humans to find our podcast and listen to our guests' wonderful insights. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.